If you're interested in investing money in a way that can provide you and your family steady streams of income and potentially even increase your wealth over time, then real estate investing might be just the thing for you. In this video, I'm going over two major strategies that you can use to increase your wealth over time. It's what a lot of the top billionaires are doing in the world. It's not the way they create their money, but it is over the long term how they create their wealth. The best thing about real estate is it's relatively immune to inflation. As prices of cost goods go up, so does real estate. It normally will hold its value over the long run. Let's just dive right in. Tip number one, and there's going to be subsequent steps underneath each tip, but tip number one is house hacking. What I mean by house hacking is using your house. This is for somebody if they're not in the market yet. I have one tip for somebody if they're in the market, and one tip if they're not in the market currently yet. House hacking is a great opportunity for people that aren't in the market yet. What you do is you find a property that has additional rental suites. Maybe it's got a house with a basement suite. Maybe it's got a house with a carriage house, a fourplex, a threeplex. These are options where you can use your house, live in part of it, because you need a place to live. That's the great thing about real estate is everybody needs a place to live, and people and migration and everything like that is happening here, especially in Kelowna, British Columbia, where we're starting to see the rate of increase of the amount of people here. Canada overall is bringing 500,000 new immigrants every year, and everybody's going to need a place to live, whether they're going to buy or maybe if they're just renting. Regardless of the situation, people are going to need a place to live. So this house hacking is a great opportunity where you own a property, and normally if you can find the smallest room possible to be able to rent it out, and to live in the smallest room possible. If you have a one-bedroom suite and you can rent out the top, you will get additional money. If you live in one part of a fourplex and then you rent out the other 3 units, those tenants are going to be paying your mortgage. And oftentimes you'll be able to live for free and not even have to pay utilities. Depends on the numbers, see how it works out. But that is normally what I'd call the number one hack to get into the market, is you essentially get to live for free. And the best thing about that too is you get to also, at the end of the day, they're going to be paying down your mortgage. As the tenants are paying down your mortgage, you're going to have a lot of equity to work with. And as you have the equity, you're saving the money. You'll be able to deploy a lot of your money and the equity in additional real estate portfolios, other investments, whatever you're really into. It's just a good way to free up some money. And at the end of the day, everybody needs a place to live. Real estate is one of the greatest options. And tip number two, and this is where it's going to be a little bit more complicated, but this is for people that have been in the market. And if you've been in the market 10 years, 15 years, or even the last 3 years, oftentimes people will have equity in your home. And really it's just using that equity. And the equity is really just sitting there. What I mean by equity is your home value, say, is worth $800,000. And you only owe on your mortgage, because you bought it, say, 5 years ago for $600,000. And now you owe $400,000 on your mortgage because you've been paying down the principal. The amount of equity you'd have in that property would be roughly around $400,000 in this example. And using that money for $400,000 is just sitting there. It's not really doing anything for you. It's just in the back of your mind, you can say, I have $400,000 worth of equity, which is always a good feeling. But what we can do here is we can utilize that money and pull out and really leverage that money and use it to something that's going to benefit you in the long run. And what that will look like is, say you want to pull out on your mortgage. Say normal banks will lend about 80% loan to security, which means say your home is worth $800,000. You can lend out on it $640,000. That's 80% of what is the current market value is. When you look at the current market value, it'll have to be appraised, and really depends on what you can really qualify for a loan. But this is just a hypothetical, assuming you can make the payments and assuming the numbers make sense with your financial lenders, that they'll be able to lend you on it. Say they're going to lend you about $640,000. What that really means is you're going to have $240,000 worth of equity. Here's an example here. You can have $240,000 worth of equity. Your home is worth $800,000. You have $400,000 owing. You can get a loan at 80% loan to security, and that'll equate to $640,000. That loan, and what you do is you can get a home equity line of credit. And why I recommend a home equity line of credit is because you don't pay on it if you don't use it. It can just be sitting there doing nothing, and just like it is doing already, but you have access to it. If you have to do home renovations, if you have to do other, types of improvements. But what I'd recommend, really where you can get ahead in the wealth game and be able to use this money to purchase a property. Say you're $240,000 additional money, and the best thing about this money is tax-free. You don't get taxed on that money. You can pull out that $240,000. You can even just leverage it and put it all into a mortgage if you want to get $240,000 and you have a use for it. But what I'd recommend is putting it towards another property, because what that means is $240,000. If you use that same loan to security of 80% down, 80% loan to security, that means you're putting 20% down. That $240,000 can actually make a purchase of a new property of $1.2 million. You can get additional property of $1.2 million. Your home is worth $800,000. So now you can have $200,000, $2 million worth of property to be able to use and rent out. And as long as the numbers are making sense, that $1.2 million rental property, it's a fourplex, maybe it's a threeplex, maybe it's a house with a suite. And as long as it's making you money at the end of the day, and paying down your mortgage, you're going to be able to rinse and repeat these steps. Step number one in this one is let's pull out the equity. You got $240,000 in this example just sitting there. Let's pull it out. Let's put it to use. Let's get a line of credit on it. We're going to start employing it and pulling it out. Why the HELOC? With the HELOC there, $240,000. Yeah, you're probably going to say, what, that's not a favorable interest rate. Interest rates on the variable rates aren't the greatest. You're absolutely right. But what you can actually do is roll this then into another mortgage. You use this as a down payment and you roll it into another mortgage and you start paying down the principal on that as well. As long as the $1.2 million is cash flowing and it's all numbers make sense, you've just unlocked $240,000. That's the number one step on how to get your wealth in check, how to really move it to the next tier. And if you do this, you can purchase properties. This is how Joe down the street, Joe, everybody knows that one guy that owns, or gal that owns, 30, 10, 15 rental properties, and they got, they've created the wealth over time. These strategies, you can sit down, have a conversation with them, but they're more than likely implementing one of these strategies to be able to grow it over time. You can buy one property a year, 2 properties a year, and as you grow, the bigger your portfolio, you start maybe doing 1 or 2 a year, and then in 5 years, you can maybe do, as you're rinsing and repeating, and you're getting more equity in your property. Really depends on how much the market is going up as well. Then now you can pull out more money 5 years down the road. You go refinance that. Now you just opened yourself up to say, another $500,000 worth of equity based on this example. That can help you purchase about, $2.4 million properties. Just make smart decisions. Reach out if you are in the Okanagan, if you're looking to invest in the Okanagan, or if you're looking for any type of investment strategies for real estate, reach out. I have your back.